Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Less than a day after Joseph Parker was quoted as saying he wants to get a Derek Chisora fight finalised as soon as possible, his promoter David Higgins has come out and said there's 24 hours to make a deal. We need to get this fight done or we move on. So the story here from stuff.co.nz, David Higgins puts a tight deadline on Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora deal. So the quotes here, Higgins told Stuff on Monday that he wanted action within the next 24 hours or so to ensure that Parker had the necessary training build-up for a heavyweight fight that could headline a night of action at the O2 Arena on April 20. And then it continues, Parker, wary of being caught short like he was with a limited training camp for his last fight in London against Dillian Whyte, wants a minimum of 9 weeks preparation, 7 weeks in Las Vegas with trainer Kevin Barry, and another 2 weeks to taper off in the British capital where he remains a marketable fighter. That sort of time frame demands an immediate response. So April 20th, so effectively we're on the verge of that deadline that David Higgins has laid out here, 24 hours. So we'll just get to some of his quotes here. Joseph doesn't want another short camp, and if time drags a little further, then we will pull the pin on that date. Joseph will fight anyone, but if Chisora and his team of David Haye and Eddie Hearn want this fight to happen, I need a contract in my inbox within the next 24 hours or so. We are nearing deadline. Eddie knows he can make a deal with me very quickly because we made the Dillian Whyte deal at lightning speed. There's no problem for Eddie to make a deal, but there is some problem at their end because they are not forthcoming with the contract. I don't know whether it's Chisora wanting too much money or maybe Sky TV UK want more on the card to justify pay-per-view. Who knows what's going on, but right now it's radio silence from their end. And then further on here he goes, the Whyte camp, it was short, we aren't going to repeat that. Chisora is a dangerous fighter, he has got a new trainer and he swarms in with a lot of punches, he has knocked out Carlos Takam, he's not to be trifled with. Chisora is a serious unit and it's a high risk and return. If you win it, you are breathing down Anthony Joshua's neck and back to the top. If you lose it, then you are really struggling. That's pretty much all the quotes there from David Higgins. So 24 hours or so from David Higgins, that's when he wants a contract, he wants to get this deal done, or he's threatening to pull out and move on and leave Eddie Hearn without Joseph Parker on that card on April 20th at the O2 in London. And if Joseph Parker wasn't to be on that card, because the option at the moment is a Chisora and Parker fight to headline that card, and at the moment Eddie Hearn is talking about that would just be on regular Sky, and if they would really to make it a pay-per-view event, they would have to beef that card up something, you know, something proper, because at the moment Parker and Chisora is a headline card for a Sky Sports pay-per-view. It's a bit weak. It's not probably going to have enough meat to it, even with some decent undercard fights, to really be on pay-per-view. Back here in New Zealand where I am, no doubt it would still be on pay-per-view regardless of who the opponent is. If Alexander Flores and Joseph Parker is a pay-per-view event, then Derek Chisora and Joseph Parker is certainly also a pay-per-view event. It'll be interesting to see what happens now, because Higgins is saying, give me the contract, otherwise we move on. So they have 24 hours or so. I mean, who knows, maybe it's really 2 or 3 days, but this is certainly a warning shot through the media that if things don't happen quickly, if a deal can't be struck, a contract can't be drawn up in time, that Joseph Parker will move on to another fight, he'll move on to something else. And in respect of the comments around training camp, so for the Dillian Whyte fight, there was roughly about 7 weeks from when that was announced till fight night. And Parker had roughly, I think it was about 5.5 weeks in Las Vegas, and then he had about 10 days or so to taper in the UK. And that was what they said after the fight, just a little bit too short, and that maybe his conditioning wasn't as good as it otherwise would have been should he have had maybe an 8 or 10 week camp, something around there, because they have been working on what works for Parker in recent years. For the Andy Ruiz fight, I think it was one of those fights back in 2015 or 2016, might have been Carlos Takam. He did a hard 12-week camp in Las Vegas, and afterwards they said, yeah, we actually overtrained, it was too much, we need to actually find a better balance. So obviously they've struck on 9 weeks as being about optimal, and they don't want to be sort of shortchanged on the camp, regardless of what the money is and who it is, because Joseph Parker's career career is on the line here. So it's understandable that he doesn't want to repeat a situation and feel that he's been caught short, because if he does go into a fight, and then obviously afterwards says, oh, well, I needed a longer camp. Well, you didn't need to sign that contract. And obviously they're saying they're not going to sign anything if it comes in the next couple of weeks. They want a contract now. They want to get the deal done. Parker off to the US and then to London a couple of weeks out from fight night. So understandable from their point of view, but it's hardball sort of tactics. So I would expect we'll hear something in the next couple of days about what's going to happen, because, the deadline may come and go. There may be some things on the back end with David Haye and Derek Chisora, because remember, David Haye is a promoter in his own right. He manages Derek Chisora. Eddie Hearn is just the conduit here. He's got the date. He's got the show. He's looking to fill it with talent. And they're talking about other fights like potentially Carlos Takam and Michael Hunter, Lucas Brown and Dave Allen. That is potentially going to be on that date. There could be some other fights there as well. We'll just have to wait and see. But if this fight can't be made, if it's taken off, then that night is starting to look a little bit threadbare. There is a couple of months, so I'm sure that they would be able to fill it with something halfway decent, but it does look at this point, from what has been said previously from Eddie Hearn, that it won't be a pay-per-view event. So David Higgins' comments there about beefing it up to potentially be a pay-per-view, I think that is potentially wishful thinking, because Chisora and Parker in the UK as a pay-per-view, I think it would probably flop. I don't think that either guy, because there's no real rivalry there like there was for the White Chisora fight, and many fans considered that to be somewhat marginal in itself to be a pay-per-view, even though ultimately it did relatively good numbers. I just think that Joseph Parker's profile, coming off a couple of high-profile losses in the United Kingdom, Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte, and also Derek Chisora coming off a knockout loss himself to Dillian Whyte, I'm not sure that's really conducive to having a pay-per-view event in the United Kingdom. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think they've got the buzz and the hype. If it was Joseph Parker, heavyweight champion, still with the WBO belt, there wouldn't be an issue. I'm sure that could be sort of beaten into a pay-per-view event, but not right now. So I think this still will be just a normal Sky card, and it will probably be on pay-per-view back in New Zealand. It'll probably be on free-to-air on Foxtel in Australia, and often it's free-to-air in the islands as well. So we'll have to see what happens, but 24 hours. David Higgins playing hardball. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out. If you want even more boxing content, come and join me on Patreon. Every week on a Sunday, I drop a new video on something topical or thought-provoking from the heavyweight division, ranging from rankings, the business of boxing, the false economy of deluded fanboys, the twists and turns in the division, to assessments of fighters and their statements. I hope to see you there, and for more information go to patreon.com/boxing squared. The address is on screen now.